Hey guys, Stephanie with AmericanMuscle.com here with these lowering springs from Ford Racing for 2015 and up S550, GT, and EcoBoost Fastbacks. The Ford Racing X springs are going to be a good option for those of you out there that are looking for a lowering spring for street and occasional track use that's going to maintain ride quality, but still provide performance and still get rid of the majority of the wheel gap that the S550 has. These springs offer a drop of 1 inch all the way around the car, which is enough to lower the center of gravity to provide some handling improvements, like reducing squat and body roll in corners and eliminating nosedive under hard braking. A 1 inch drop is also going to improve things on the appearance side, so no more big wheel gap, and you'd be surprised at how well the S550 chassis responds to just a 1 inch drop in both the function and the looks categories. The 1 inch drop will keep a little bit of space between the tire and the fenders, but it's even looking, and I wouldn't consider it a gap anymore. It's a functional low, and by that I mean it's low enough to look good, but not low enough to cause issues either on the tire or under the car. It's going to leave you with a very streetable car still. You may have already noticed, but the majority of springs are only offering a 1 inch drop because the S550 chassis doesn't need a huge drop to obtain better looks or an improvement in handling. The S550 responds well to what some of the older generation Mustangs would consider a very small change in ride height. There are some springs that'll give you a larger drop, but not by much, but they will still get you lower if you're looking for the maximum drop from a spring. And these are going to be compatible with both the factory and aftermarket wheel and tire setups, which is just another plus of the 1 inch drop. Just for reference, we did install these on our 2015 EcoBoost with 255/40/19s on the front and 305/35/19s on the rear. The drop will look a little different depending on your wheel and tire setup. The other thing to consider when you're shopping for springs besides the drop is ride quality. These are a progressive spring, which means that they have a progressive spring rate, and that means that they're a good option for a street car. They don't have a harsh ride quality, but they will firm up as you start pushing the car, which works to give you the best of both worlds between comfortable and functional. Normally, the trade-off with springs is less ride quality for better performance or a better look, since in typical fashion, the factory suspension is set up more for having a comfortable ride quality and being easy to drive than anything else. The stock springs are soft and they'll allow for wheel hop and a lot of body roll in the corners, so there's a lot of room for improvement. As far as ride quality though, these aren't far off from stock. They're not a stiff spring, they are more forgiving. You'll probably notice a difference in ride if you drive your car every day. It will be a little stiffer, but it's not uncomfortable. Overall, these springs are intended for street or occasional track use, so they do give a stiffer than factory ride quality, but they're made to not be harsh, so still comfortable, but also able to perform when you want them to. Ford Racing does also offer a track spring if you want something more along those lines. As far as price, these springs are going to be right in between the $200 and $300 mark, which is right where the majority of other springs are falling as well. Of course, there are some breakout springs that are either less expensive or more expensive than that, and even springs that are all across this price range. At the end of the day, it's really about what you want from your springs and what you plan on doing with your car, and that will help direct you to the right spring. So the install here is going to take about 4 hours. I'm going to call it a solid 1 out of 3 wrenches on the scale because you will need some knowledge to complete this install, so I'd recommend having a knowledgeable helping hand or taking this to a shop for the install if you haven't done this before. It's always a good idea to get an alignment after the install. This install can be done on jack stands if you don't have access to a lift, but as usual, a lift would be your best bet here. You're going to need a few tools, including a spring compressor, so make sure you have that before you start the install. You're going to need to get down to the spring and strut assemblies, so everything like the wheels, brakes, ABS lines will need to be moved out of the way so you can pull the assemblies out of the car. The spring compressor will help you remove the spring from the strut and install the new front springs, which are compressed and installed the same way. The strut assemblies go back the same way they came out, and the install is the same for both sides. The rear is where things are a little bit different, but nothing crazy here. Essentially, the IRS subframe will be dropped along with the rear shock mount so you can slide the rear springs out. Just like the front, the rear springs install the same way they were uninstalled, no surprises here. The new bump stop is slid onto the shock, followed by the factory dust boot. The new spring can then be installed and the IRS subframe can be bolted back up. That's about all it's going to take. Like I mentioned earlier, a fresh alignment after the install isn't a bad idea. Wrapping things up here, the Ford Racing X lowering springs offer a 1 inch drop all the way around the car. They have a progressive spring rate, and they're designed for street and occasional track use. As always, I suggest you check these out more online for yourself. And for all things Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.